Commander Vex'thor held the human weapon in his secondary manipulator, turning it over with barely concealed amusement. The crude metal device was heavy, inelegant, a relic from some barbaric age. Around him, the Hegemony's tactical chamber buzzed with similar derision as analysts examined captured human armaments. They propel metal slugs with controlled explosions. His weapons specialist chittered, mandibles clicking in what passed for laughter among the creche. No plasma containment, no quantum entanglement, no zero-point energy taps, just chemical reactions and kinetic force. Vex'thor set the rifle down on the examination table with a dull thud. 47 star systems had fallen to the Hegemony's advance, each one more sophisticated than these humans. The Zinthari had wielded graviton lances. The Plex Confederacy had deployed singularity mines. All had surrendered within cycles of first contact. And now they faced apes who still threw rocks, albeit very fast rocks. Sub-Lieutenant, he addressed his intelligence officer. Tactical assessment of human defensive capabilities? Minimal threat, Commander. Their largest vessels mass less than 800,000 tons. Their energy weapons are laser-based, easily dispersed by standard shielding. Their missile technology is adequate, but nothing our point defense cannot handle. The officer paused, tapping his datapad. The dominant military philosophy appears to be something they call combined arms warfare. Quaint. 3 more systems, Vex'thor thought, then we reach their homeworld. This Earth, this death world they speak of with such peculiar pride. The term was unfamiliar to Hegemony xenologists. Most species evolved on garden worlds, carefully balanced ecosystems where intelligence could flourish. Humans claimed their planet actively tried to kill them. It showed in their crude technology, in their obsession with redundancy and brute force over elegance. Prepare the fleet, he ordered. We jump to the Sol system in 6 cycles. I expect total capitulation within 2. The first human vessel they encountered didn't transmit surrender. It didn't request parley. It simply opened fire. Vex'thor watched the tactical display with mild interest as kinetic rounds streaked toward his flagship. The defensive grid activated automatically, particle beams and interceptor drones moving to eliminate the primitive projectiles. Most were destroyed. The ones that reached the shields dissipated harmlessly, their kinetic energy absorbed and redirected. Return fire, he commanded. Target their propulsion systems. We'll want some intact for study. The Hegemony's response was surgical. Plasma lances capable of vaporizing 3 meters of titanium alloy reached out across the void. The human destroyer twisted, burned its lateral thrusters in a maneuver that should have liquefied its crew, and dodged. Not all the beams, but enough. Enough that it kept firing. Commander, they're not breaking off. I can see that, Sub-Lieutenant. Vex'thor leaned forward. The human ship was hemorrhaging atmosphere from a dozen punctures, one of its engines dark, and still it came on. Its remaining weapons platforms cycled continuously, each volley timed to exploit the briefest gaps in his fleet's defensive fire. Tactical, why aren't they requesting terms? Unknown, Commander. Their communications are strange. They keep repeating Thermopylae and something about nuts. Translator confidence is low. Then the human ship did something Vex'thor had never seen in 40 years of conquest. It rammed. Not his flagship, it couldn't reach the command vessel at the fleet's heart, but it struck one of the destroyer escorts with enough velocity to punch clean through the shield envelope and crumple 15 decks of armor plating. Both ships detonated in a sphere of incandescent plasma. The tactical chamber fell silent. Analysis, Vex'thor demanded, his voice carefully controlled. They used their own vessel as a kinetic weapon, Commander, loaded the forward section with their nuclear devices and accelerated to 0.37 light speed. His weapon specialist sounded shaken. The detonations were inside our shield perimeter. 412 crew lost. They destroyed themselves to take 1 ship. Vex'thor's thorax tightened. No warnings, no hesitation, just action. All units maintain defensive formation, scout wings, advance, and the rest of his order vanished in klaxons. Missile signatures, hundreds of them, thousands appearing from every vector at once. The human fleet hadn't been hiding. They'd been waiting, distributed throughout the system in silent running mode. Now they all fired simultaneously, and the void became a storm of metal and fire. Evasive maneuvers, point defense to maximum. The Hegemony ships were faster, their shields stronger, their weapons more advanced. But the humans had done something clever, something Vex'thor should have anticipated from a species that had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing each other. They'd done the math. Every missile didn't need to penetrate shields. Every missile just needed to drain them a little, to occupy a point defense battery, to force a ship to maneuver. The humans fired in waves, each time precisely, each volley learning from the last. Adaptive warfare. Their missiles weren't sophisticated, but they learned from failures, their AI updating in real time based on successful penetrations. 3 Hegemony cruisers died in the first exchange, 7 in the second. By the third, Vex'thor's flagship was burning hard for the system's edge, shields flickering under sustained bombardment. Get me a damage report. Communications array destroyed. Port ventral shield generator offline. Hull breaches on decks 9 through 14. Commander, their fighters are deploying some kind of electromagnetic weapon. The lights died. Emergency power kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing the tactical chamber in red. Vex'thor's displays rebooted, then flickered with garbage data. A cyber attack, coordinated with a physical assault, turning his own systems into enemies. How? The thought clawed at him. How are they doing this? The answer came from his sensor officer, voice tight with something that might have been respect or terror. Commander, they're not using advanced technology, they're using everything. Kinetics, lasers, missiles, cyber warfare, electromagnetic pulses, even chemical explosives. They're layering effects, overwhelming our defenses with volume and variety instead of sophistication. One of the displays cleared enough to show external feeds. Human fighters swarmed through the debris field, smaller and more maneuverable than Hegemony interceptors. They flew like madmen, pulling turns that should have been lethal, their pilots somehow enduring acceleration that would have pulped any other species. One fighter strafed a Hegemony frigate, not targeting shields or weapons, but sensors, blinding it, making it vulnerable to follow-up strikes from torpedo bombers. Death world. The word suddenly made sense. These weren't sophisticated beings who'd evolved beyond violence. They were violence, refined across billions of years of survival on a planet that spawned hurricanes, earthquakes, diseases, and predators at every turn. They didn't need elegant weapons because they'd learned to make everything a weapon. Admiral Vex'thor, a human voice crackled through the static of damaged communications. Female, calm, utterly without mercy. This is Rear Admiral Chen of the UNSC Thermopylae's Revenge. You have entered Sol system with hostile intent. You will withdraw immediately or be destroyed. These are your only options. We outnumber you 3-1, Vex'thor managed, though the tactical display was proving him increasingly wrong. Then you'll die tired. A pause. Your forces have 3 minutes to begin withdrawal burns. After that, we stop shooting at your engines. The implied threat was clear. They'd been targeting propulsion, giving his fleet the option to run. Chen was offering mercy, once. Commander, his tactical officer, said quietly, our fleet combat effectiveness is down to 47%. We've lost 6 capital ships and 14 escorts. Human casualties are minimal. They're fighting in a defensive posture, using the system's asteroids and orbital infrastructure as cover. Every time we maneuver, we expose ourselves to another kill zone. Vex'thor looked at the tactical display, really looked at it. The humans had turned their home system into a fortress. Every asteroid had weapons platforms. Every orbital station was armed. They'd seeded the approach vectors with mines that had waited silent and cold until Hegemony ships passed. then detonated in carefully calculated positions. Not to destroy, but to herd, to push his fleet into engagement envelopes where massed human fire could overwhelm even superior shielding. And behind it all, Earth hung in the void, a blue-green jewel that had spent 4 billion years forging the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever seen. "All ships," he transmitted on the fleet-wide channel, his voice steady despite the shame. "Begin withdrawal. Emergency jump as soon as calculations are complete." The human ships let them go. They didn't pursue beyond the heliopause, didn't press their advantage. They simply watched, weapons still trained, as the Hegemony's proud fleet limped away from Sol System with 30% casualties, and nothing to show for it but a lesson in humility. In the flagship's ready room, after the jump to friendly space, Vex'thor prepared his report for the Hegemony Council. His career was over. 47 victories, and one defeat that would define him forever. He wondered how to explain it, how to make them understand. Finally, he wrote, "We encountered humanity today. We judged them primitive because they had not abandoned kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. We were wrong. They have not abandoned these weapons because they still work. Humans are not sophisticated by our standards because they do not need to be. They have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of warfare at every level simultaneously. They do not have elegant solutions. They have every solution. They offered terms. We rejected them. They destroyed us with weapons we deemed obsolete, tactics we considered crude, and a ferocity we failed to anticipate. I recommend immediate cessation of hostilities and diplomatic overtures. The humans call their planet a death world. They are correct. It has made them into something we cannot defeat, not because they are stronger or smarter or more advanced, but because they refuse to surrender, ever." The report reached the Hegemony Council 3 cycles later. By then, human diplomatic envoys were already en route to the capital, not to request peace, but to dictate terms. The Council accepted every condition. Rear Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the Thermopyla's Revenge, watching the last Hegemony signature vanish from the sensor grid. Around her, the crew was already beginning damage control and recovery operations. They'd won, but it hadn't been clean. 247 crew lost, 3 destroyers crippled, thousands of missiles expended. "Ma'am," her XO approached, datapad in hand. "Initial reports from the fleet. All enemy forces have cleared the heliopause. No pursuit detected. Good." She didn't look away from the viewport, from Earth slowly rotating below. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we're coming home." "What should the message say, Admiral?" Chen smiled, tired but satisfied. "Tell them Sol System holds. Tell them humanity holds. Tell them we showed them what happens when you threaten Earth." She turned away from the viewport, from the debris field that had been a battle and was now a graveyard and a monument. Somewhere out there, the Hegemony was regrouping, recalculating, realizing what they'd stumbled into. Let them come back if they dared. Let the galaxy know what happened when you underestimated the species that had clawed its way to sentience on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. Humans didn't have the best technology. They didn't have the strongest shields or the fastest ships. What they had was something no other species in the galaxy possessed, the absolute bone-deep certainty that surrender was never an option. Not when home was at stake, not when family was threatened, not ever. The Hegemony had learned that lesson today. The galaxy would learn it tomorrow, and if they were smart, they'd learn it peacefully,